everybody. Thanks for joining me. My name is Barrett, Laurie, and if you are new here, I am not only fabulous, I run this channel. So in case you hit your head and don't know where you are, today we are having a live stream author interview with Kashay Warren. I cannot wait to get into all the details of her writing and her process and what's going on over on her channel. Before we get into that, I'm going to really quickly say a quick hello to all the folks that showed up for us early in chat. Just Eva, you're supposed to be laying down resting. Jennifer Brown, good to see you. Good to see you though, Eva. Chandra Arthur, Morgan Lee, good to see you. Jennifer, you guys are chatting with the novel Nana. Bex, good to see you. Margaret Pinard, hey, how are you? Read, write, collage. Yes, you're here for Kashay. She's on her way. 1 second. Running to write, Ben, good to see you, my friend. Glad you're here. Adam Stevenson, hey, I owe you an email response. It's coming. Crow No Yami, good to see you. Hey, Crow. And the Naked Firefly, hello, how are you? Here we go. I am going to get myself together. Sorry, friends. It's been a day. So here we go. Kashay Warren, aka ShayWithThaHobbies, writes short stories, poetry, and the occasional blog post. Kashay is working every day to be a future best-selling thriller, mystery, horror writer with a few banned books under her belt. Recently, Kashay's story, Karma Always Comes Back, We're Not Home Anthology, was released, and she did a reading on her channel. I've linked to both the book and the video of the reading in the description box below. Her channel showcases her many talents and hobbies like reading, writing, artwork, and crochet knitting. She shares her workflow and her lively and fun writing sprints. She also encourages others along their artistic journey. Everyone, please give a warm welcome to our guest, my friend, Kashay Warren. Welcome. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine. So happy to be here and a little nervous.
Yes, we're so glad to have you. Portia, good to see you. Welcome. Grayson's here. Welcome. Good to see you. You have got a room full. Gary Thomas, good to see you. Glad you're here. Bonnie, good to see you. Cecilia Keys, hello, hello. Richard Holiday made it. I knew you'd make it. And my good friend Nia, Vixen of Fiction. Hey, how are you? All right, friends, let me get organized. Shay, would you like to let everybody know where they can find you? Otherwise, the description box. But where else should people be looking for you on the internet?
Okay, so I have social media accounts. I might not always be active on them. So there's that. But it's at FIFTYSOSHAY. So 50 SO Shay. That's where you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. And yeah, pretty much everything. It's that.
All the places.
all the things.
So you're prolific in all of your hobbies. We all know that, thus the title of your channel. So talk to me a little bit about who in your life brought you into crocheting and knitting, your reading and your writing, and then also you're into art and photography. So kind of like, where did all that come from? Is it different people, one person?
Yeah. So there is one person that kind of like honed everything and like fostered an environment for that. And that would be my grandmother. May she rest in peace. I love her. And she was a very artistic person. She wrote, she painted, she made clothes, she made outfits, like she did a lot of different things. And so one of the things that she raised us to live by is that you can make something out of nothing. So like you can take these individual things and they may not be anything of value, but you can make it into something. And so that's kind of like always been the person that I've been. So she fostered that. Like I was the kid that got art sets every Christmas. Like it was like the markers and the crayons and the color pencils and the pastels and the watercolors. Like that was me. That and a notebook, I was good.
Yeah.
Throw in some Babysitter Club books and you had me. Like you had me. And so she also fostered reading. Like reading was very, very important. Like I had a mini library in my room as a child, as well as like in the house that I grew up in. I was homeschooled for 5 years. So we had like books upon books upon books. Yep. And as far as writing, actually, the first person to really get me into writing was a therapist. As a child, I was not like speaking at around the age that you expect kids to be speaking. And so my grandmother thought like it was like a developmental thing and it was more of an emotional thing. And so the therapist, was like, hey, you don't have to talk, but just write. So she gave me a notebook and a pen, and that's kind of where it started, mainly with poetry and then delved into stories. As far as knitting, I learned how to knit my sophomore year in high school. There was a knitting club. So my sophomore year in high school, I went from being homeschooled the previous year to being back in public school. And it was a culture shock. A very, very
what was that shift like?
It was awful. If I to this day wish I had never went back to public school. Like I have no problem with the school that I went to and graduated from. And I met a lot of my best friends through public school and things like that. So like it had its blessings, of course, but for me as a student and the way that I learned, I much would rather have been homeschooled like until I got ready to go to college.
Yeah.
In that school that I went to, I knew that I wanted to go to college, and I knew to be in college, you needed to have an impressive high school resume. And so I was like, okay, knitting sounds fun. So it was me and like 4 of my friends, and we were like the first people at the school, at the club. So it's like 4 Black girls, and we're like knitting, and then we're walking around class like the rest of the week with like our knitting, trying to figure it out. And of course, everyone's like, what are y'all doing? And so I want to say that by the time I left the school, it was like 25 girls in the club. So it was pretty cool. It was fun. I didn't start knitting, or I didn't start crocheting until like maybe 3 years ago.
Okay, so that's
yes, I haven't been crocheting nearly as long. But crochet has my heart.
I see that.
It's like my thing. I kind of love to do it, and I want to get into knitting better and doing more knitting because like I've done so much with crocheting. Like y'all, there's so many unfinished blankets around this living room right now. Like it's a whole thing.
Like all the writing projects I have.
Right? Yeah, you know,
unfinished.
If you were to ask me how many unfinished writing projects versus unfinished crocheting projects, I would be lying to you if I said I could tell you one was bigger than the other, because they're kind of running neck and neck right now, legitimately. I'm trying to see. I said the reading. I said the writing.
That knitting and crocheting. Those were the
photography. I always liked taking pictures. So I'm a 90s baby, legitimately, like 90, the year I was born. So I grew up with like Polaroids and, you know, those Kodak film cameras and everything. And so between this movie called Down in the Delta and Veronica Mars, I was destined to be a photographer. Like that was going to be my thing. And so I got my first camera, like my it was like a regular little mini digital camera my senior year of high school, because I wanted in this college high school hybrid thing I was in. Yeah. And I was taking pictures of everything. And I was like, you know, I might be kind of good at this. I might be okay at this. So then a couple years later, I had the money and I bought a camera. No lie, y'all, throughout college, being a photographer paid for my books every year. Like every semester, being a photographer made sure that my books were paid. And it's not like a huge amount of money, but y'all know books and y'all know college, and books in college are not cheap.
I sure do.
So, whew, that was a lot. Okay, there we go. I got it.
No, I gave you big ones right at the beginning, or like the ones where you had to know multi-part, which was mean and hard. Sorry. And the second one's even better, which is like, what are 3 things that would surprise folks over on your channel? Like people that watch you, what would they be surprised to know about you?
Okay, 3 things you would be surprised to know about me. Well, see, and that's the other thing, I'm pretty open on my channel. So I'm trying to think of 3 things that y'all wouldn't know before this interview. So I feel like y'all know that I have tattoos. I feel like y'all don't know that my entire back is covered.
I didn't know
so that. From the top of my back to the very bottom, like the whole thing is covered. And like I got color and everything. No, so actually is amalgamation the right word?
I don't know.
I feel like, am I using that word right? I don't know. So let me not use it, because it could be using it wrong. So we just gonna act like I didn't say that. It is a collaboration of artists from across this country. So there are like tattoos I got at a tattoo convention in San Antonio, a tattoo parlor in LA for my 24th birthday, Dallas, so all over the place. So yeah.
It has been confirmed. Yes, an amalgamation.
See, there we go. I thought, but you know,
we should have known.
You don't ever know. We live, right? I can't edit it out if I was wrong. So I was just like, you know.
I love all the people saying they thought the 90s was like 10 years ago. Oh,
right? 30.
The
30. 31 for me in like 2 weeks. So like it was a while.
It's been a minute.
So that's one thing. My entire back is covered. In total though, I have 16. So
cool.
Okay. Let's see. No, y'all know I was emancipated. I already told y'all that.
Yeah.
Let me see.
This used to be a first date question of mine. I'd always ask the date, what are 3 things I can't tell by looking at you?
3 things. Okay, but like, so that was easier than like 3 things that my channel don't know. Because it's almost been 2 years. So I'm like, what have I not told y'all? What don't y'all know? Well,
this will be our first date. So hey.
Right, this is. Okay, so let's see. What else do you not know? So the writer that I have the most books of in my house is John Grisham.
Okay.
I own more John Grisham books than anybody else.
That's interesting.
Now, for the record, I would own more N.K. Jemisin books if she had them, because I would own everything that she ever wrote, as I currently do in some form. But John Grisham, it would be the number one. So that's 2. One more thing that y'all don't know that I haven't told y'all. Dang it, I always use the Halloween one, but y'all know that already. Dang it.
Wait, this is like assumptions plus icebreakers. Sneaky.
Right?
I do approach this sort of like dating. It's sort of
right.
Like,
I love it though. I love it though.
It's like, let's get to know each other.
Okay. So for 7 years of my life, I was a part of an African dance troupe.
That's really cool. That's really, really cool. Why'd you stop? Did you move or did like you?
My grandma stopped going. Like she stopped being a part of it. So we just stopped. It was definitely while I was a child. So yeah.
Love you. Yeah, you're sweet. She's about to get married in New York. We're flying over here to do that. So, or I guess not husband, soon to be husband. Let me ask you this. So I know you're an avid reader and you love your books. So as far as books go, do you remember the book that you read as a little bitty Kashay that said, yes, I'm obsessed. I have to now read all the things. Like what was the book that turned you into
it would have to be This Present Darkness by Frank Peretti. He is my favorite author. And that man can write. Like, regardless of what your religious beliefs are, the man can write a story. And he can put demons on a page that make you be like, I kind of don't want to mess with these demons. Maybe I thought I liked demons before, and now I'm like, maybe me and demons don't know each other as well as I thought we did. Like, it's one of those. So it would have to be This Present Darkness.
That is one I have not read. So that's one I need to read.
Okay. So what have you read by him? I'm curious.
Nothing. So that.
Nothing. Okay.
So I know nothing. So I'm like.
Okay. So if I were to recommend one, then.
Okay.
While I love This Present Darkness, and you can definitely start from there. Is no problem with starting from there. The one that I reread this year that reminded me so much of why I love this man as a writer is The Visitation.
Oh, okay.
And I've always suggested this to people when we talk about, like, because, I know me and you both grew up in, like, Christian homes. And so I always talk, a lot of the complaints I see when people talk about Christians is that they can do no wrong. Like, they don't talk about how they can make mistakes. Sure. And in The Visitation, it talks about radical Christianity and how radical Christianity can turn people and situations into way worse things than they ever would have been. And so I always like to recommend that book to people. Okay. Specifically because it's like, I'm not trying to sell you on Christianity. That's not my job. What I am trying to sell you on is a good book and a good writer. And that one will make you be like, okay, well, all right. And then you're like, he wrote this in like the 90s, early 2000s. Why aren't more people reading it?
Like ahead of his time. Yeah.
Okay. Ahead of his time, for sure.
Okay. I love that. So, okay, let's go back to kind of talking our first question. We talked about who kind of introduced you to kind of all of them. But what about ongoing encouragement for your writing? Like who's your squad? Who's pushing you forward?
Oh, wow. This
like who's your most who's your person? It's like, you can do this. Keep going, keep pushing.
Okay. So I like the further explanation because I was like, oh, this question might make me cry. Yeah. So, right? It is.
It
It is. It is. It's a creepy book for sure. He's definitely called the Stephen King of Christian fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so when you first started the question, I was like, oh my gosh, am I gonna cry with this answer? But then when you like further, I was like, oh, okay, it's not a question, it's gonna make me cry. So good. Okay, so as far as now, encouragement, of course, Paul, the boyfriend, is the biggest encouragement. Sometimes he's a little frustrating with so when you gonna finish that story, part of it. But then outside of that, it would definitely be my CPs. Like every single one of them are like, hey, I love this. Hey, keep writing. Hey, don't give up. Hey, this is good. Hey, yeah, that feedback might have hurt your feelings, but it's still a good story. You still did this. Here's how this can work. So all of my CPs, and that would be Becca C. Smith, Dejana Francis, Tash from Truly Tash, and Britt Ryder.
Sweet. Okay, cool.
Awesome women.
That's amazing. I love that. And that's key to find your kind of your folks that are going to help give you the feedback you need to grow and level up and do all the things. So I love hearing that over here on the CGL channel. So tell me this, what was the last book you loved enough that you read to recommend? Like that you recently read that you said people have to read?
Like a new read. So something I already shared. Okay. So
because you just gave me one that I'll be reading. But other than that.
So, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Wings of Ebony by the lovely JL that we are currently doing a read along for. I'm just saying. Book 2 comes out next month. Get ready. So that's definitely the book.
Ashes of Gold. Am I right about that?
Ashes of Gold. Yep. Okay, Ashes of Gold. Wings of Ebony is book 1, and Ashes of Gold is book 2.
Sweet. And I think Britt, your friend Britt, is on the street team. Am I right?
Yep. She's on the street team for.
Yes. Oh, here we go. Yes.
Yeah. I was like, it's right here.
I know it was one of my favorites of this last year. Same. And I'm gonna ask you about that because you guys talked a little bit about it last night. So I want to kind of come back to it.
Okay.
Yes, we'll get to it. So we're gonna switch gears. We kind of covered about, so we're moving into Karma Always Comes Back. Folks that didn't know, we've kind of talked about the reading, but the link is below. You definitely need to check that out. I think you're going to read something different for us at the end of this segment. But for those that don't know, check out this reading that's linked below because it's really great. And it kind of is that's the intro to the story you need. And it's creepy and it's lots of things that I want people to get used to and love. So talk to me a little bit before I jump in and ask all of the other questions. So what genre would you put this one in? Is it like strictly horror or what would you say?
No, so I would think it's more of like a psych thriller. Right. Like it has the horror elements of like not knowing certain things and the like dread that I try to do. But I do think it is, and I think what I write does tend to be more psych than anything else.
Cool. Okay, so like a psychological thriller more than like psychological horror.
So
it's hard because it's like
I will say I'm not sure.
Yeah.
On that, like I feel like it could honestly be both, in my opinion. But also, I'm new to genres and genre conditions, so I could be wrong at that.
So what can you tell us about Karma Always Comes Back and Penelope's Curve? So what can you tell us about these stories? Like where did the ideas come from?
So Penelope's Curve came from a walk with the dogs and Paul, and there's this curve on the path that the park near my house follows. And excuse me for using this word, but it looks like a corner where someone could get attacked and harmed. And I didn't say the word, but y'all can imagine. And so with that, I took a picture of the curve and I was like, I don't know anything other than the title is Penelope's Curve. Like, I don't know what Penelope does here. I don't know anything like that. I just know that's the title. And so at the time, I was like new to the AuthorTube community, and I had met the Naked Firefly, and she had recently wrote a short story, and reading her short story had kind of like made short stories click for me. like how to get the beginning, middle, and end. And so I started to apply that template with how I was thinking about it. Yeah. And so shout out to her for sharing that story, because I'll never forget that. It definitely was like a catalyst moment for me. Yeah. And between like doing live streams and talking to people, I was like, she's a man-eating ghost. I don't know what else she do, but she a man-eating ghost, and this is her curve. And it just sort of grew from there. And that's how the story happened. With Karma Always Comes Back. So Karma Always Comes Back is part of a song lyric that I loved. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I love this. This is going to be a title. And so it was literally a title that was like sitting in my bank of titles. And so when I wrote the story, and the version of the story that I had prior to the anthology, I wrote the end of 2020 going into 2021. And it was just psych thriller short story. Like that was literally the name of it until like April of this year.
Okay. What and where did it, and as far as like when you were putting it together? So let me ask you this, because it is an anthology, correct? We're Not Home. So tell me, that process was like what? How long before like you turned in, before you got to get the book in your hand? What was that time?
So I turned the story in the end of September, and the book came out October 20th.
That is such a fast turnaround.
It was a super fast turnaround. Give me a second, I dropped something.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, that's incredible. That's the beauty of self right there. Because that's a quick, fast turnaround, and
it was a super fast turnaround. And I got originally when I got asked to be a part of the anthology, I had a 2-week deadline to write the story. So I legit wrote the story in 2 days.
Wow. Okay.
So the first half of the story, which is not even half, it was half in the beginning when I wrote it, was what was written before 2021. Okay. And then there were like things that like I added, but majority of the story that's in the book was written in a Friday or a Saturday to Monday window, and then I turned it in. So yeah, it was really, really fast.
For sure. So so I was gonna just real quick hit on tropes. Do you have a favorite thriller horror trope? And if so, which one is it and why?
My favorite thriller.
I guess it doesn't have to be thriller, or just favorite trope, I guess.
I'm trying to think. I'm bad at these tropes. Okay. I'm trying to think of like what I like in books.
Yeah.
And then how that translate or a movie.
I'm always a sucker for a found family. I mean, I think that's the.
Okay, there we go. That helps. I love found family.
Yeah.
I love found family. I love intergenerational characters. Yeah. So I love when it's like old people and young people. Like I love that, because that was legitimately my childhood. So I love that. I love a good vigilante. I do. I love a good, we got to get them. I'm one of those. Yes. And then I am a lover of secret societies. I am. Like, I'm a lover of like hidden organizations that do all these other things that you don't know and how far they reach. Like, I just love that type of stuff. So yeah.
Okay. Would you write that? Would you try to write?
Oh yeah, I'm working on one. Yes, okay. Yes. Cool. Totally would.
So what about, would you consider doing another anthology if you were asked?
Yes. So outside of short stories, everything that I plan to publish under my name, my actual name, will be short story, like anthologies or collections or poetry. So yeah.
Very cool. All right. So have you done any poetry? Did I miss some poetry on your channel? Have you done any poetry readings?
Yeah, there's a few poetry readings on my channel, and then on the blog that I have, it started out as a poetry blog. So if you go back, almost all the original posts are all poems that I wrote.
Britt, this is for you, I think.
Yes. Yeah, definitely a massive understatement. I'm a sucker for revenge. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Oh, I love this question. Portia Simmons. Hello, Portia. Shay, can you talk about your process when you're writing for an anthology submission? How do you choose where you submit, and how do you decide how you interpret the theme? Great question.
Ooh, okay, great question. So, for the other ones that I have submitted to, to be clear, for this one, I did not submit to. So I didn't know anything about it going into or anything like that. Like that wasn't the thought. So for the ones that I submit to, the first thing that I try to do is look and see like what the person hosting it or doing it is about, because I like to see like, am I interested in this? Am I gonna want to be a part of this? Also, am I going to want to pub about this when this thing happens? Like, because that's going to be part of what I'm supposed to do. So I think about that first. I did not do this originally. Originally, I was just like, oh, somebody wants me to do an anthology. I'm just so happy somebody wants my story out there. And I realized people were trying to snake me. It happens when you're like first getting into the writing community. Like people are like, oh, I'll publish your story, but you got to pay me and right? Like those things.
Okay. See, that's a scam I didn't know anything about. So that's good.
Yeah. So it was like because that's how. So originally, when Karma Always Comes Back was originally written, it was written for a different anthology that I was going to be in.
Hey mods, help me with that, please.
Yeah, can we do that? There was an anthology, and the anthology was specifically about the twist that is Karma Always Comes Back. So every story in the anthology was playing with that twist.
Okay.
So that's how that came about. And so learning from that, I was like, I'm gonna be a little bit more particular with my time and what I do. Gracias, we appreciate you. And so that's the first thing. Then I won't lie, I do try to go and see what I have already that might work with the theme and how I can rearrange it, which is how Karma Always Comes Back came about. Yeah. So I did have an original idea that I did start drafting, and I'm definitely going to work on, and it's going to be a short story, which I think might eventually turn into like a collection, or maybe reach out to some people and be an anthology. But I didn't like that story. Like I didn't have like the bandwidth to like put energy into it and make it come to life like my other stories. And so because of that, I was like, this isn't gonna work. Well, then when I started for Karma Always Comes Back, because I'd already written the draft, and the draft itself had nothing to do with the theme, because the theme is like travel. There was no traveling in the original version. I was like, you know what? I'll just write the second part to this first story, and so it'll have the same twist, but you won't know it unless you read both stories. And so that was originally what happened. And then I was like, it's still not feeling full. And so that's what made me combine them both. So I research and look at the organization, look at what the anthology is. I look and see what I have that could work through it or could add to it, and go from there. As far as deciding to interpret the theme, I try to think like me and like not like anybody else, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I try to think like, how would most people interpret this? And let me not do it that way. Like, let me play with this trope or this topic or this theme in such a way that like I'm doing it differently than what everyone else is, right? Yeah. So like with the We're Not Home, in my head, I was like, well, if it's vacation, like everybody will expect that it's like a vacation. So we're not going to make it a vacation. We're going to make it a murderous road trip.
Yeah.
And so there we go.
I love it. Okay, that's cool. Thank you, Portia, for that question. Good question.
Great question. Thank you, twins.
Yes, thank you to all the mods. I appreciate you very, very much for that.
Y'all,
good eyes.
Really
guys. Okie doke. So back to my questions. What about if, so the first story, do you happen to remember the first story that you wrote and shared with anybody, and what was it about?
So I don't remember it had a title, but it was about this little girl named Angelique, and she had an older brother named Josiah and a little brother who I either just kept calling little brother or never gave a name to. Cannot remember. I remember Angelique and Josiah. Those characters have never left my mind or my heart. I'm pretty sure my grandma was like the first person that I told about it. And the funny thing is that my very first and best female friend growing up, her first daughter's name was Angelique. And like I met her like years after I wrote this story and all that. So when I meet her and she tells me her daughter's name, I was like, it was meant to be. It was meant to be. So yeah.
Oh, I love that. Okay, that's really that's eerie in a way. But I like
right?
it.
Right.
Yeah. So now, so what kinds of writing? What about novels, novellas, any other stories? Like, what can we see from you in the future that's going to kind of give us oh wow, that's not what we expected. So we write
well, okay. So I don't. Say that again.
Will you write outside of the thriller, mystery, horror, anything, or will you stay pretty much in that silo?
Oh no, yeah. So okay, so I'm a bit of an overachiever. I am of the belief that if I set my mind to it and work hard enough, there's nothing that I can't do. So I want to write in every genre eventually in some form. And so they will not be in my name, so you won't know that it's me in case I do a horrible job. So there's that. But but I want to. So I'm definitely like, I love the idea of like a family romance, like brothers and sisters, and then like each book a different one. Like I love that people do those. And I was like, I'm not a romance writer, but maybe one day this will be something that I do. Yeah. So that now that we are acknowledging that historical fiction doesn't have to happen in the Civil War and World War II era, I want to write a historical fiction set in the like 70s, 80s time frame. It would still be a mystery thriller, so it wouldn't be like that, but it would still be more historical in that context, which is something that I never thought that I'd want to do. But now that the 70s, 80s is considered historical, your girl's thoughts have changed a little bit.
Totally. Makes me sad being born in the 80s, but okay.
Right, no, because somebody wrote a book in the 90s and it was called historical, and I was like, what?
I saw it. I was like, oh,
I said, okay, first of all, 30 years though, I need y'all to get it together. There are other wars, Richard, completely. See, yeah, I'm just saying, I think it would be funny. I think at the very least you would laugh at the romance, and that would be great.
I mean, listen, I'm down for all of the above. Let me go back to Eva's question because I loved it. It's about poetry. So she remembered hearing poetry on the channel. Have you ever thought about doing like poetry lives as a regular thing on your channel?
So it is something that I've thought about doing on the Twitch channel, doing more like chatty things because right. I don't like this either. Doing more chatty things on Twitch, just because of the setup. I'm not necessarily as much of a fan of sprinting on Twitch right now, but I'm learning. I'm learning it. It might be a thing. Right. That's what I said. I felt attacked too. Okay. I did. So I'm not saying you're historical.
She's not saying we're not.
I don't think you're historical. It's these Gen Z people. Okay. It's them. They told me I'm old and I'm 30.
I'm in my 30s.
Right. I'm not historical either. You not? You're not. No, sorry. You're fine. You're fine, Eva. But yeah, no. So it's definitely something I've been thinking about doing on my Twitch channel. So like my first Twitch stream was me reading all of Karma Always Comes Back. I'm thinking I'm gonna do Penelope's Curve here in the next couple of streams. And so I was thinking of, since I don't have other short stories that are out there where people could go and read them, that I might go back through the blog and read different ones that are in the blog. Because I've done that on a live before. So
sure, why not? I love that. And you've already done the hardest part. You know what I mean? It's like it's there. So it's like
it's there, right? It's already out there. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, it is time for you to read a little bit. Would you like to do a little reading?
Oh, okay. I would.
I'm
Okay.
going to give you full screen, so you're the star.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Go for it. Give us.
All right. I'm gonna do my little dramatic reading. Shout out to Margaret for her dramatic reading. I know that's like her thing on her channel. I want to give credit's due. So Penelope's Curve. I was 18 the night I began to believe in ghosts. And that's not to say there wasn't good reason to believe before then, mind you. It wasn't when the Miller boy went missing from the red zone, even though Grandpa said it was Penelope. He always knew that boy was no good and said Penelope taking him only proves it. I remember when they found his clothes tattered and torn right at the curve, her curve. And even with no body, I still didn't believe. I knew Joseph Miller, and yeah, he was a sleazeball and a jerk, but I'd known him since childhood. Usually the people that went missing were strangers, names I forget a month or so after they would disappear. It should have made me wary of that part, that curve, that woman. It should have. That night, I was ending my shift at work when an older-looking white lady pushed past Louis to get in the door as he was locking up for closing. She carried a slightly ripped The Burger Joint bag in one hand and her receipt in the other. Her face had a deep scowl. I let out a quick breath in preparation for whatever she was about to say. Something about the way her face was scrunched up told me it wouldn't be nice. Louis gave me a small shrug, locked the door, and went back to sweeping the lobby. Great. It'd be on me to deal with this. I asked for tomatoes and no ketchup. It's written here on the damn receipt, she said, thrusting the crumpled slip of paper in my face. Her fingers smelled of mud, like that smell of dirt after a fresh rain. It was such a weird smell for the middle of October, but it was only the second offensive thing she'd done in my book. The first being her mistaken thinking I had anything to do with her food being made. I bit down on my lip and took a step back, putting up my hands in front of me to create some distance between us. A man appeared at the entrance and banged his fist against the glass, making us both jump. I looked from her to the man and then at Louis. Louis dropped the wide broom and quickly went to unlock the door. What of sense that made. The man walked in and stood behind her, peering over her shoulder and looking down at me. His presence would have been more intimidating, except I could see the holes where teeth should have been clear as day. I bit down on my lip, harder to hide that I actually felt sorry for him. He gave me a smirk and a head nod that was cringeworthy. Are you not seeing this? She said, pushing the receipt back in my direction. Everything in me wanted to tell that lady and the man with her to take that receipt and sandwich and put it in a place that the sun don't shine. Luckily, Patricia was the one working the grill, while I was the sandwich artist all week. I knew this would be her fault, regardless of what she said, because the receipt cleared me of any wrongdoing. I do love technology. When I reached for the receipt to return her money, she looked very angry. So angry that I actually thought she might try to hit me. Her dark brown eyes held a gaze that seemed downright disrespectful. Aren't you the one that took my order? She said. Yes, ma'am. No tomatoes, no ketchup, 2 cups of water, but one with no ice, and 2 kids' meals with apple juice. The answer tumbled out like I'd memorized them. I couldn't help but feel a tinge of pride at how quick my mind replayed the memory of the woman wrangling 3 unruly children. I want a refund and I want my food made correctly, she said. She slammed the bag of food on the counter so hard, I jumped. I looked from her, then to the bag, Louis, and finally the tall man. I couldn't get a read on him. He was standing too close to be her father, and the way his eyes fondled my frame, he couldn't have been her man. Could he? I got ready to tighten my jaw, then took a moment to think. I was not trying to end my night on a bad note. No problem, man. As long as the food hasn't been eaten, I'll be glad to do that for you, I said, reaching for the bag to look inside. The sandwich was half eaten. She was not about to like this. I said a small prayer for patience in my head before looking back at the woman with the textbook customer service smile on my face. I'm sorry, ma'am. I can give you a full refund, but unfortunately, due to our policy, I can only replace uneaten meals. My smile was unwavering, just like they taught us in training. She narrowed her eyes at me and let out a low groan. Excuse me? My child couldn't eat his food because he would have had an allergic reaction, and you're telling me I can't get a new meal? I bit my lip again and shifted on my feet. Here was that bad ending I was trying to avoid. Unfortunately, no, because the food was partially eaten. I'm not allowed to replace your meal and give you a refund. I kept my tone pleasant and replaced my plaster smile with a more sincere one. Would you like me to get the manager for you? Everything in me hoped she'd say yes. Yeah, I would, since you don't seem to care that my son was poisoned by your incompetence. I blinked. And again. And again, I was in no mood for my intelligence to be assaulted, especially not at no 10:52 at night. I turned around, stunned by her sharp comment. Not wanting to lose my job over speaking with some sharpness of my own, I went to get Mike, the manager. He could deal with this. I heard a snicker behind me as I walked away. I balled my fist at my side, flexed my hands, then relaxed them again. This was not the time or place to let them get me upset. I was off in less than 10 minutes. I found Mike sitting in the corner of the restaurant that was reserved as his office. With his head nose first in paperwork, I cleared my throat to announce myself and draw his attention. Talk to me, he said, not even bothering to look up. I rolled my eyes and mouthed a few choice words at the back of his head before beginning my synopsis. Look, there is this woman whose son ate a half a sandwich with tomatoes and ketchup on it, where I clearly put on the order that there weren't supposed to be any of either. Patricia was working on the grill, so I'm not pointing any figures, but there you go. I kindly explained to her that we would gladly refund her money, but couldn't replace the sandwich per our policy. I waited to see if I lost him so far. My words were tumbling out faster than I intended, but I wanted to get home. It was now less than 5 minutes until the end of my shift, and I had no intention of staying late again. Mike nodded his approval, still not looking up from the work before him, so I continued. Also, you need to deal with this because her attitude is through the roof and she called me incompetent. Oh, and there's this guy with her too. I don't know if he came in because he felt she needed backup or what, but yeah, that's all yours, my guy. Mike shook his head, put the papers he held in his hand on his desk, and stood up. Fixing his pants on his waist, he said, "That girl keeps messing up people's orders. I don't have the budget to keep making food or refunding people's money. Let's move her to the register tomorrow and put you on the grill." He nodded at me and walked to the front, not even waiting for my response. I hated the girl, but honestly, if it meant I wasn't the one dealing with angry customers, I could get over that hatred. Or at least that's what I was telling myself that night. I grabbed my jacket off the little shelf I called mine near the employee restrooms. I popped my name tag off and stuck it in my back pocket, then scanned my fingers so I could clock out. I was shaking my head at the lady arguing with Mike and unbuttoning the collar of my uniform to let my neck and chest breathe. My eyes met those of the snaggletooth man, and I wanted to jump out of my skin. Why was he looking at me with such lust? I exchanged annoyed glances with Lewis, who held the door open for me as we stepped outside. "Be careful going home tonight. You know they still haven't found Jack Miller," he said. His voice was soft and low, almost hard to hear over the nighttime traffic. I nodded and gave him a weak smile. His name was Joseph, not Jack, and I always am. There we go. You're muted.
I was shooketh. Okay. So Eva's question is wonderful, which is, was any of this inspired by real events? And then I'm going to pop up some of the feedback you got while you were reading. So go ahead.
Okay. So, yeah, so I've definitely, I haven't ever worked for like a fast food place, but I did work for Subway. And like, I'm gonna be honest, in Subway, you see me make your sandwich. So if you didn't like something, you should have told me before I wrapped it. So, you know.
Richard says, "I love the conversationalist tone of the prose. It's like you're telling the story in the lunchroom to your bestie." And
thank you, Richard. Oh my gosh, that's exactly how I wanted it to be. Oh, I'm so glad you got that. Yes.
So, also, I'm never using the word bestie ever again. That's okay.
I love it. That's exactly what I was going for, though.
I loved this. Love the first person narrative. I did too. I loved being that close in the head. That was great. Ben said creepy. Agreed. Margaret, so good. That was incredible. I'm going to do this question up before we move, and that is, do you find writing poetry adds to your fiction?
For me, yes, because I metaphors are my playground. And so metaphors, a lot of doing metaphor right to me involves a good balance of description. And so I feel like being able to do that has definitely helped me to be better at fiction.
Wow, love it. Bless you, dealing with pickle hogs like me. Shay, just make sure when you do audiobooks that you were the one narrating. Yes, because it was like I could see it happening with you reading it. Agree, 100%.
That is my like goal. Like I love my Brit knows my like author love is Elizabeth Acevedo, and she narrates all her books. And it's like, if that's the one thing I want on my contracts, like y'all can do the other stuff, but I want to narrate it. I want to give it life. So yep. I love it.
Adam Stevenson said, that was amazing. I have always been scared to read out loud like that, and you did amazing. I agree. Shade Trees was saying, hello, welcome. Margaret was talking amongst people, pickle hogs. I'm living for that. This is the one I was looking for. I could hear the poet in Penelope's curve. I personally find poets to be better fiction writers. Ouch, Eva. I feel personally attacked. But yes, I would agree. I could hear a little of that as well. Well, I loved that. Thank you for doing that. It was also decided that we'll be doing that for all of these interviews now, because everyone's like, we need more of this from authors when they're on. So
Yay! I like it.
So let's move on to talking a little bit about your channel, which is how I stumbled upon you. And we're going to talk about all the things within your channel. But off the top, like, talk to me about the name and like how you decided to like brand it Shay with the Hobbies.
So I was actually talking about this morning on my stream. So it's funny because even before I knew how to change the name on YouTube, because excuse me, woo. If you go back to my videos of the lives, you'll see that like in the chat it would say like Kashay Warren instead of like Shay with the Hobbies, because I didn't know how to do that. But I knew, so even in my first video, I say that that's the name of the channel, because I knew that I didn't want my channel to just be one thing. And I knew from watching YouTube that when you do one thing on your channel and you decide to grow and do something else, viewers feel a type of way about it. And so I was like, if I let you know from jump that I'm gonna be doing a bunch of different things, then here's the thing, you came in at your own risk.
Right.
So yeah, so that was where the Hobbies.
You knew what you signed up for.
Right. And I knew that I didn't see a lot of Black people on AuthorTube. Yep. I knew that at the time I was not aware of how big the corner of Black BookTube was. I didn't see that many Black BookTubers. And I knew that when I watched crochet videos, almost everybody was white. I knew that those were three things that I was eventually going to bring to my channel. So I was like, Shay with the Hobbies brings it all together. So
I love that. And I think it was smart. I've kind of tried to do something similar, because again, you're very right. When YouTube decides, oh, we like this thing, they kind of run with it. So it's good to upfront be like, hey, I'm covering all the topics. And then that way, if someone subscribes, they can't be like, oh, I unsubscribed because I didn't want whatever.
Right.
Get over yourself. But okay, so now what about on your writing sprints? Here's my question, because you do writing sprints like year round all the time. And I need to know if this is just me. I tried them in November. I get nothing done when I'm hosting them. But like, I feel like you actually do on yours.
So yeah, so it depends, right? Like, so this morning, I mean, I got life stuff done, but I didn't write anything. Okay. But usually I do. I'll set a timer for myself. So like if I'm hosting and I'm like responding to people in the chat, then I'll set like a timer so they're like the last 5 minutes or at least 5 minutes of the stream of that sprint, I'm writing.
Okay. That kind of makes sense. Now, what about when you're in the audience of them? Do you find them? Like,
I definitely do a lot of work when I'm in the audience of them. But when I'm preparing to do work, because there are times where I'm just in the chat chatting with people and not working. I do think that in general you have to find a balance, for sure. You have to find a balance.
Well, we linked to, I'm just going to mention it again, but we linked to the video for Karma Always Comes Back, the reading. So if you loved Penelope's Curve, you should go check out that video and give it a listen, and go ahead and watch those ads. People, don't skip them. Don't be that person. But my question for you is, do you see yourself doing more of that on your channel in the future, as far as sharing your short fiction works in your own voice, especially now that we know everybody wants to hear it? Yeah.
No, there's definitely something I plan to do for sure. So I've said this, but like we're doing the interview. So Penelope's Curve will actually be a collection. So it'll be a collection of stories told about Penelope from different people and their experiences with Penelope. And so the plan will be that around the time that I'm like ready to like publish it and it be released, to be doing like excerpts live from each story so people can kind of get an idea of what it'll be.
Cool.
That's the plan.
Cool. I love it. Well, the next section I want to talk about is When Black Women Speak. Eva said something about it in the series, and when she talked about it, it was on the agenda to talk about. You and Britt Reiterly get together and chat with different folks, right? I mean, you kind of bring in...
So I feel like for When Black Women Speak, it's me, Britt, and Bree.
Okay,
when
it is.
That's me and Britt, it's Reiterly Conversations.
Reiterly Conversations. Okay.
And and that's a monthly thing.
A monthly. And When Black Women Speak, is that weekly or how often is that?
So we took a little bit of a break for like Thanksgiving, and then we did our last episode last night for the year. But it was every other week, and we'd rotate through channels. So it would go through Bree's channel, Britt's channel, my channel, Bree's channel, Britt's channel, my channel. So.
Well, and the topics are really, really great. And I think a lot of them are necessary and definitely need to be talked about. But they get a little spicy for some. So my question is, what about blowback? Have you had any negative blowback? What does that look like?
I don't think I've had any negative blowback. I mean, if there's been negative blowback, nobody said anything to me. So
nobody's like popping in your inbox trying to
say nobody's hopped in my inbox and said anything or anything like that. Honestly, most of the feedback that we get is how important the conversations are, how they wish they had more of these, how they wish we did these more often, giving us more topics to talk about and things like that. So yeah. So it's definitely been received really well.
No, I think so too. I love it. I think it's important. Margaret said something, when Black women speak, we should listen. I agree. And I hope that you don't think when you don't see me in the chat, like I listened to all last night. I loved it. I thought it was great. Mm-hmm. But I usually don't hop in the chat and talk just because, again, it's sort of like when Black women speak, the last thing you need is me coming in and like.
Right, no, and I completely understand that. And I don't, here's my thing. I don't fault you if you do comment. I don't fault you if you don't. It is a conversation. And for me, it is a conversation and it is supposed to be educational. So I am of the belief that because we are doing this and we are having these conversations in a public space, that we are opening ourselves to be able to ask questions or answer questions that may come up or topics that may come up. And so I don't ever feel negatively if someone who isn't Black comments or someone who isn't a Black woman says anything, because again, it's supposed to be a conversation. And again, I feel like for me, I feel like a part of the reason that racism is such a prevalent thing is because we shy away from talking about it.
Agree.
We shy away from it. We don't want to talk about it, or we don't want to open up space to talk about it. And while it's not any Black person's job to educate or anything like that, if I put myself in a position to do that, then I'm definitely going to be willing to speak and talk with people.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I guess I want to make myself clear so that I'm not misunderstood, because I see this, but there's usually not much blowback on. Oh, I agree. I think what I meant is the few times I've spoken out on against racism on my channel and also in my Facebook, I get flooded with racist comments in my DM. So I think that's more what I meant.
I'll be perfectly honest.
I didn't know
I've said this to people. I feel like people know who to try, if I'm being really, really honest, because I've never had anything like when I did Black Rage right after George Floyd died and I made that video, like I've never really had that. And I feel like people try people they feel like they can try. And not to say that I'm like rude or mean to people, but I am definitely very like, you're not going to talk to me any kind of way. And you're definitely, if you're going to step to me with anything about what I'm saying, you better have your facts right. Because I'm definitely going to come from you with the like, no, these are just facts. This is not my opinion. This is just what it is. And so not to say that's not what you did in your video or anything like that. But I just think that like, because I know that that's part of the reason like Becca stopped streaming is because she would get trolls and stuff in her like live streams. That's not really something I've had. And even when we streamed on her channel the other day, legitimately somebody like came into her chat and trolled.
It just recently started happening to me in mine too, and then in my inbox. So that was why I asked the question. So I should have prefaced that. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no.
Sorry, I saw your comment was like, oh wait, I should preface why I asked that question. So anyway, yes. So I'm glad we're talking about it. What about, so the topics are intense and you guys talk about serious stuff that I think needs to be talked about and folks need to be listening to. So is there a particular episode that was especially cathartic for you, or a topic that was especially cathartic for you?
So I'm gonna be honest, everything about the whole series is cathartic. Every time we do an episode afterwards, like there is this sense of relief and peace that I feel of getting to not only converse with my co-host on it, but also with the people in the chat. Because although me, Britt, and Bree are all very different, and we do agree on a good amount of things, not everything, because we, again, very different. We do agree on a good amount of things. There is something validating about being in the conversation and in the comments and seeing that there are other Black people who are feeling these same things and thinking these same things and dealing with these same things. There is, for me, it's cathartic to be reminded that I'm not alone in these thoughts and in these feelings. So like the whole experience is like, I know you watched last night, but the general you watched last night, I even was like, I missed y'all. Like, I'm glad we're doing this again. Like, I'm glad we're back for this episode because it's always fun. I'm always laughing, even though we're talking about, like, you're not going to find an episode where we don't laugh. Yeah. You're not going to find an episode where we're not joking and calling each other out. And you're not going to find an episode where we're not learning from each other as well as the comments. You're not going to find an episode where we agree on everything.
Well, that was
there's at least one thing in every
episode, wasn't it? That it, like, being Black isn't a monolith. Like, that was an entire episode, I think.
Right. That we're not going to always agree on things. And so just being in the space, because honestly, for me, when Black women speak, it is the Blackest event on my channel, if I'm being honest. Yeah. So it's the closest to me being 100% myself without wearing a mask as I can get on YouTube, because YouTube is automatically mixed company. So the closest I can get to being in mixed company and feeling 100% relaxed is when we're doing those chats.
Yeah, totally. That's fair and makes perfect sense. One of the things last night I loved that came up that I thought, and I know Britt's a big fan. She's on the street team, but we were talking about Wings of Ebony. And one of the things that you talked about was Hood Light, which as a reader, I would never have, Britt was saying, like, that wasn't something she picked up as a reader because of her lived experience. So that was something I was going to point out that was very different, right? Because the two of you and Bree, had very different views of the Hood part than Britt did. And so that's just another example of, like, it's not a monolith. And what's cool about sitting in the conversation and just watching it happen is you see stuff like that where you're like, see, this is why you should be here, so that you kind of understand, like, oh, okay, this is what I will never understand about this.
Because we're not an amen corner. Like, we're not gonna like amen something just because the other one of us said it. And even the part that I loved about last night is because me and Bree do have more similar experiences. 9 times out of 10, we're more so agreeing than like me and Britt, or like Britt and Bree. But last night there were multiple times where me and Bree were like, no, our experiences both hood completely different. Completely different. And so it was just one of those moments that, again, even with as much as we connect on and we do have in common, we still have completely different experiences.
Right. And that's the beauty of it. And I think the brilliance of the show is kind of bringing you guys together to kind of talk about, especially last night's topic was fun because it was BookTube trends. So there was lots of tea spilled. So if you want to watch some spicy curry, guys, go over there. It's good time. You're not going to regret it. But
it was fun. Last night was really fun.
So let me ask you this. This is something I've kind of seen happen in the chats, and we're having a discussion. So I think this is a good moment to kind of toss out something that I've noticed that gives me the cringies. But sometimes I'm in the chats in the writer sprints, and I will see sometimes white ladies refer to Black ladies as cis. So can you explain to me why that gives me the cringies and why it's not a great thing and why we should stop?
So historically speaking, right? And you can definitely see it in older films, right? So in older movies, when Black people talk to each other, or when white people are like talking to Black people and they're trying to show they're down, they'll be like sister, brother, like that kind of thing. And so even though the intention might be to be more friendly, it is very reminiscent of things like that. And here's the thing, sis is a familial term. And so for me, I don't give you the title of sis or bro lightly. Like, that's not a thing that I do. So like, I take it very personally when somebody does it to me, because I feel like you're putting me in this category as your sister, right? So that's where the issue for it like comes in for me. I do think that in my experience, I have found that people who are not of the community hear things that we say to each other and appreciate it and like it and think, wow, they're close. That's why they use this title. And because they feel that they are close, they feel they have the right or the ability to use these things. And I personally believe that you should only call somebody something they, want to be called. Allow you to call them. Personally, is like my belief. And I just think that like sis and like there's a few, like, I'm not gonna even lie. I cringe when I get called queen by somebody that isn't Black. I do. Like, it just makes me, because I feel like because it's not something they've normally done to me. Like, it feels like because 9 times out of 10, it's not something they've done in the past. They randomly started doing.
Here's one.
Oh, they got me with the hey girlfriend.
The queen one is one that's, again, probably bad and gotten a little bit worse in the gay community. And it's something that's happened in the gay community that's not always great. And I think it comes somewhat out of drag culture. But there is a kind of co-opting of definitely Black colloquialisms. And
for sure.
And so that's why I think I'm sensitive to it. And so I think when I saw it, I kind of went, ooh. And I sometimes, and I don't think when I've seen it, it's because CB made a comment. So CB, I can't find it. It scrolled up. But you made a comment about the condescending. I don't think it's condescending. I think it's meant in the best with the best of intentions, maybe sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like some people are condescending, but I don't think everybody.
I'm not saying that. Yeah. That's, excuse me.
No, and that's what I want to make sure. Like, I don't think everybody is. I do think there are people. Because I'll be perfectly honest. I had a hard time being in workplaces and people calling me girl. In any place that I'm at work, I don't care. Like, that has been weaponized way too much in white people versus Black people in this country, that I am a grown woman, and for you to refer to me as a girl, it makes me feel some type of way. Like, it does. And so I've had to like deal with that and work through that and get through that. But yeah, like, and I feel like in general, like, we all have things that just, it doesn't feel right for a stranger to call us.
Right.
Like, that's just the truth of it, is that no matter how much you may think you know me through the videos and being on my channel, if we don't have like personal conversations, you don't know me. And so anything that you're doing that is familiar is of your own choice, not of a relationship that we've built. And so I think that for me is something that I just wish that people in general were more cognizant of, because we do tend to, people that we see, we do tend to make them closer to us for whatever reason. Like, we feel like we know them and we have this connection with them, and it just makes things more familiar than they actually are in real life.
Yes. So this comment I'm going to read, write, collage. I think we have to keep in mind that good or friendly intention doesn't negate possible harm. Yes, totally agree. You're right. Britt says, it also puts the Black person back in the position of educator to non-Black people on racism and co-optation. There's a draining assumption of labor there. Yes, there's a whole video actually on Black labor in the playlist, which Devin listed just up above. So yes. Thank you for
no problem.
And again, I'm sorry. And to Britt's point, sorry to make you the educator.
You are totally fine. Totally fine.
Yeah, like I said, I saw it and kind of thought, we're gonna talk about that. And we're gonna stop that.
I love it.
So tell me this. So which episode do you wish, or is there a particular episode from the series that you wish every AuthorTuber, because we both know that AuthorTube, we've talked about this off screen, you and I, AuthorTube's pretty white and female, but it doesn't matter, white in general. What do you wish somebody that looks more like me would go over and watch one of those episodes with an open heart and open mind? Is there a particular episode?
Okay, so watch me go look at this playlist, because I'm like, we've talked about so many things. So like when you just said a video, I was like, well, one of my favorite ones is the Black professionalism one.
Yes.
I think that's a very, very great one for anyone to watch, specifically working in a place where you're working around Black people, so you understand the different things that we do or might be doing in that workplace. But going through I'm thinking that I think it would either be the very first one, a discussion about being Black and a creator, and I warned you guys it's almost 5 hours long, so there's that. It would be that one. Right, there was a lot to say. It would either be that one or Black in the Workplace, which was our 4th episode. And we had 2 guests on there, a Black librarian and a Black, I want to say non-binary graduate professor.
Okay. I am going to throw up some of these comments real quick, because a lot of them are worth putting up there. One of the things I love about AuthorTube is the opportunity to get to know authors of all colors, shapes, and genders. Agreed. I think it's also good to go into spaces like this series we're talking about now. And you were saying you lurked Regina earlier, and I was going to say, come lurk by me, and we'll sit and listen together, because I think we can learn a lot, and I think that's always a good thing. So Shannon says, in the military, it's drilled into us to call men male. They're discussing the male-female discussion in the comment about not liking being called girl, just in general, which gave me the cringies. Richard, as someone with Asperger's, I do struggle with terms of endearment or pet names, so I tend to avoid and probably get overly formal. Well, then what is with all this pet names you've given me, Richard? That was one great one. The Black creators. Yes, agree. And Britt says, like conversationally. Oh, okay. They're doing their own thing. Okay. So I'm going to pop back into our questions, and I'm going to turn the page back to the Black AuthorTube tag, which is one of the first things I kind of became aware of, wow, there's a much bigger community than I ever knew. First of all, I wasn't getting served them to me. Like I wasn't getting accounts served up to me with YouTube, but also I was
YouTube be slacking
until I saw the tag. And then I kind of became obsessed with the tag and found lots of great people. So tell me all about the origins of the Black AuthorTube tag, like all the details. Where did it come from?
So the Black AuthorTube tag was a Melanated Femme collaboration. It was me, the Naked Firefly, Grayson, and Sid Sapak, and Olamide, who channeled O Monroe. And so we sat down because pretty much, like you said, we saw that the community was not really colorful, and we're like, we wanted to create a way to find each other. And for me personally, I never did the AuthorTube newbie tag, and so I was like, well, I think we should do this. So we all sat down and came up with questions that we thought would be good to like get to know people and find out what they write, see what their channel was going to be about. And honestly, like I think it was really, really good because it definitely let me meet some amazing people. The writing community that we have in the Discord is like 20 people plus strong now, I believe. Cool. And just to know that there are other people in the community that you can, reach out to. Like I said, like that's how I got my CPs, Dejana and Tash. So honestly, like it was really good. I think you should, Adrian. Honestly, right? I think everybody should. Like, I think well, here's the thing. Everybody does. If we're being honest, right? There's already a disability tag. So for people that are disabled, so there are. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with finding other people in the space. because the thing is that it does really get hard when you're in a space where nobody looks like you. So nobody else is like, if nobody is looking like you, they are dealing with things you're dealing with, but not all the same things you're dealing with.
Yeah, and
not
different.
A good portion of the things that you're dealing with. And so it just helps, right? Like there's conversations that I can have with Britt or Dejana about Black Voices Matter and DV Pit that other people don't even know that BVM is a hashtag or what it means or why it exists or any of those things. So I saw that there was a need, and we were already all like working together and getting to know each other, and we were all like, hey, this is a thing that we all think needs to be a thing. And so we all sat down and came up with the questions.
This is perfect. Heather, couldn't agree more. We need to seek out things that are lacking in our sub list. Heather Salter, Purvis author, thank you for that. I completely agree with that. So in that vein, so you've kind of talked about it, but have you found sort of that it's helped you to continue to kind of build out that community for yourself and for others? Have you had other people kind of come back and go, wow, that helped me find a CP, connect with someone? Like, has it continued to do that on and on since it's been about a year?
So I feel like there have been for some people, I don't know like everybody, but like I know that like I end up finding Maya, and like me and Maya now like we'll do sprints multiple times a week in our accountability partners. And legitimately I don't know how much of doing the Black AuthorTuber tag or just finding it to know the community helps.
Exists.
Because like I think that has been more of the thing, because there's maybe been maybe 4 videos, maybe 5 outside of the one like us that originally created it that have done it. So it hasn't been like a whole bunch of videos. I don't think it's like into the past like 10 or 11 videos, but again, the community is like 20 plus people in it. So there are people that are getting reached and that are finding about it and that are doing it. So I just think that it serves to find people and find a community, which is what it was supposed to do. So.
For sure. And build out that community, because when you're marginalized and you're a minority, you need that space.
Right, you need a safe space for sure.
Absolutely. So speaking about that, you and some other friends in the Black community are working on Kwanzaa-a-thon. So I just watched the announcement video. Tell us all the things. There is a link in the description box below to the announcement video on Shay's channel, so be sure and check it out when you're done with us here. But tell everybody about Kwanzaa-a-thon, and then I will give my qualitative statement at the end. For
awesome. People. Okay, so Kwanzaa-thon is a week-long celebration of Black culture and creativity, and this year we are doing it a little bit more abstract. As you guys may or may not know, I don't know how many of you know, but originally I started CreatorTube because it fit more with what I was doing as far as like creating things and doing much more than just writing. And so we wanted it to be open to all forms of creators. So we wanted it to be like you could do it if you did booktube and you find books that fit the prompts. You could do it if you painted and find pictures that you paint to fit the prompts, or poetry you could write, or a short story or flash fiction that you would write, those type of things. Nighty night, Richard. Thank you so much for being here. And so I sat down with Britt and was like, Britt, would you like to co-host with me this year? Can we come up with some things? And so we sat down and we looked at the prompts and came up with what we wanted, and came up with like the prompt, but also like a tagline, so you kind of knew what it was talking about. So Kwanzaa-thon is obviously surrounding Kwanzaa, and the point is for us to uplift, edify, and celebrate the Black creators in our community. So there are like multiple prompts where you can like collaborate with the Black creator or shout out a Black creator. There's, supporting Black businesses and things like that. So it's really aimed to be, you're welcome. It's aimed to be really low key. So it's not like stressful. Last year, the Melanated family got together and we created last year's prompts and did it. And last year there were like prompts for YouTube and prompts for books and like prompts for writing. And it was a lot. your girl was tired and burnt out. And so she was like, this year, we're not going to do that because we want to go into 2021 or 2022 not burnt out. So
Yeah.
But it's open to everybody. Any and everybody can participate. I would love for any and everybody to participate. I think it's a great way to find Black content creators so that you can participate. Like, find somebody that you like and you like to like shout out and things like that. Like, I know one of the videos I'm planning to do is a shout out of smaller Black channels that I watch and that I love, and I'm like watching in the things that I love about the channel. Yeah. So there's just a bunch of different ways to engage with it. So I hope guys do and enjoy yourselves.
I do too. My only note is going to be, you said it in the video and I think it was well said, but I'm just going to make a point one more time. It's really, really good to remember that we're centering the Black creators though, and that is the goal of the whole thing. So let's just keep it in mind if we decide to venture over there and participate. Perfection. It's linked below for everybody. I want them to check all of that out. So talk to me about some, oh, wait, before I move on, I do want to point this out because I'm going to make a connection real quick. So A Book by Adrian does a podcast and interview series like mine, and he was wanting to say to you that you are a natural and you are on his wish list for next season. So,
oh, wow. Well, reach out.
Season 4, reach out. Adrian, email me and I can send you a contact or Instagram, right?
Right. Either all the things. I'm with it. Also, I love your avatar, by the way.
Yes, it's great, isn't it? So yes, he's got a great channel. Definitely, I would love to connect you to, because I agree. I think you guys would have a lot in common, and I think you would enjoy your chat together. So with that being said, let me ask you this. Do you guys have any specific topics or things that you want to cover on the channel in the coming year?
Wait, you say you guys, so do you mean for When Black Women Speaks, or do you mean for my channel? Or
I guess for When Black Women Speak, and then separately for your own channel, like what's coming from When Black Women Speak, and then also for your own channel just in general the next year, what can we look for in the new year that's something exciting to look forward to?
I know that we've gotten a few fan discussion topics for When Black Women Speak. I know that we want to tackle the prison industrial complex conversation at one point. I think there's been like conversation about a book that we want to all read before it, and making that like a thing that we do for When Black Women Speak, so like people can have like, no, this is where we're coming from type of deal. But we haven't finalized everything. We're trying to like get that stuff figured out this month so we can be ready to announce like, hey, are we going to go back to doing it every other week? Because 2022 is busy for quite a few of us. It is very, very busy. And this kind of goes into the question that Eva asked that I didn't get to answer, but it was about co-authoring. There is something that I am working on that is co-authoring in 2022. So hopefully, that comes out and that'll be a thing. Y'all will see that. That's about all I'm gonna tell y'all. Okay. So you'll just have to see what it is. You just have to see what it is. But as far as my channel, we kind of hinted at the Crime Readers of Color book club. It was spun out of Black Aweenathon and interviewing Kelly Garrett on Bree's channel. Bree is the host of Black Aweenathon and the creator. And so I had the privilege of joining her to interview Kelly. And so we kind of joked about creating a book club, the Crime Readers of Color. And me and Bree sat down and we're like, no, we're going to make it a thing. So we have like all the books that we plan to read, group read Rise, but also prompts, or the theme for the month. So if you don't want to read what we're reading for that month, you can read something else that fits the bill, that kind of thing. What else?
She says, what's the name of that book club again?
The Crime Readers of Color.
Crime Readers of Color. Got it. Okay. Sorry. And she said, got it.
Yeah. And I and the lovely Brit, and I'm working to get a few more co-hosts together. But I have 2 hip-hop themed readathons coming for next year. So looking forward to that and getting y'all involved in that, especially us 90s kids, like 2000s teenagers, because I feel like y'all are just gonna be with the songs that we chose and everything. Y'all gonna be like, why? First of all, you're gonna be like, this is so on brand. And then you're going to be like, why did nobody think of this before? And the answer is because they're not us. So there you go.
I love that. And you know what? They're not you, so they're sad about it. And what can I say? So before we move on to craft questions, we're going to take a step back. We're going to quickly go over and do rapid fire questions real quick.
Okay.
And then we will bop back into some of my questions, but I encourage everybody out there to throw some questions in the chat. Gary, if you're still out there, you asked a question earlier that I really want to get to, which is about writing a character of color and best practices for that. So I can't remember how you worded it, but drop it back in the chat because that is a discussion I'd love to have here. So definitely drop it. Let me toss up my questions and I'm going to give you full screen. Are you ready?
All right, I'm ready. Whew.
What are yours going to be? Here we go. What is your greatest fear?
Not living up to my grandmother's expectations for me.
Okay. What is your biggest regret?
Not going to Howard my freshman year.
What would friends say is your best trait?
Oh, I'm a ride or die.
What name would you give yourself if not Kashay?
So if I wasn't Kashay, so the name I had, me and my best friend came up with like alter egos for ourselves. It was Paris Logan.
Oh, okay. Love it. What annoys you the most?
Ooh, okay. So this is, y'all are gonna think this is like really petty, but ashiness really bothers me. Like moisturize people. It does. It's a pet peeve. It is.
What word do you hate?
I don't like the word moist.
No one does. That's a very popular answer to that question. What word do you love?
Ooh. There's a word that I love and I can't think of what it is. It's just right on through my tongue. Golly. A word that I love.
You want to skip?
Yeah, can I come back to it?
Totally. What's your favorite curse word?
Ooh. I think it's shit. It just works for a lot of things.
What can always make you smile?
Dogs.
Fair. When you're at your happiest, where are you?
Ooh. Where am I? At home?
Who can always talk you off a ledge?
They have to be living, huh?
They don't have to.
Okay, my grandma.
Morning person or night owl?
Bruh. Night owl.
What one word best describes you?
Handful.
What sound soothes you?
Rain, but like no thunder. Like just rain.
Who is your harshest critic?
Ooh. It's a toss-up between me or Paul.
Okay. And the last one we can go back to, or you can leave it. Your favorite
Okay.
word.
So, okay. Again, when I tried it, the first word that came up was onomatopoeia. So there we go. It like I tried not for it to be the word, but it came up when you asked it again. I was like, that has to be it then.
That's so good. That's so good. Okay, good. Well, Devin dropped the YouTube channel for Britt, and I think they're talking about the forum so folks can get involved in the writer club, which is
wonderful. Like you want me to give y'all the link for the forum is what you're saying?
I think Britt directed them to where they can find it. So I think they're good. You got lots of agreement on ashiness.
Okay, yay.
So I wanted to just toss that up there because you seem to have some people agree.
Hey.
What word do you love? Kashay, me. Autumnal. Oh, autumnal. Wait, why can't I pronounce it?
Right, because she knows I hate that word. I hate it because right, exactly.
Why do you do it to me? Why do you do it to me? Oh, thank you so much, Nana. Here's the question: how can I write an authentic Black character? I have one in my head as a lead character for a novel. So an MC. So an MC.
So a main character or a like main side character, because like that's still a lead character. Like that's what I'm asking. So I believe. If you're writing a character that is not from your lived experience, the best way to go about that means that you need to employ sensitivity readers. Like, I don't think that's optional. Because the thing is like, I personally believe, me personally, I think that you should write the character how you see the character. And then I think that you should let the person that is in that to read that character and tell you what you did right, what you did wrong, where to grow from that. I don't think that you should try to write what you think that character is, because I think personally that a lot of times what we think a character is and what they are two very, very different things. And so like you might think this is a Black thing, but you think it because of your perception of what Blackness is, and it might not actually be that. I say this specifically because people choose to use like AAV for Black characters, and the truth of the matter is, for a majority of us, we are not using AAV when we're interacting with Caucasians. Like, that's just not a thing. We're using it when we talk to each other. African American Vernacular English, formerly known as Ebonics. And so because of that, I just think that it's better to do it that way, because I feel like if you're doing it that way, then it's like you're writing the character just how you see the character, not trying to put what you think this character is. And then that person that is of that will be like, well, okay, well, in this situation, this is how this might be culturally different if you were to consider this part. With that being said, this is just Kashay talking, so this is not for anybody else's team. I personally do not write main characters outside of my lived experience. My side characters are. And if a main character is in my is outside of my lived experience, in some way we still line up, right? So if it's a man, it's a Black man, right? Like, so if you're writing a character, as a man, I think it's wise to write like a Black man over a Black woman, because there's way too much intersectionality in that. That's not going to be as easy for you. It's going to take a lot of work. Is my thing. So I do think, like I said, sensitivity readers are a must. They're not optional. Research, and we talked about this last night. So research is going past the Google search, right? Like, it's going past that. It's going a little bit deeper. Research might mean that because you're writing this book doesn't come out as fast as anything else that you wrote. It might be a year's worth of time, because I personally believe that to write Black people, you need to be reading Black people. And if you're not currently doing that, that's something that you should be doing it. I think that you have to watch Black people. So not Black characters, but movies directed and written by Black people, right? Because there's a difference. So not just having Black actors, but like the director is Black or the writer of the movie is Black. That changes the connotation of the Black characters, right? Like, we all know the thriller, the YA thriller that's becoming a Netflix show, but nobody was Black, and now there's a Black character. Like, that character wasn't intended to be Black. So there's gonna have to be some rewriting and some different things about that character that didn't exist originally. I hope that kind of like answered your question and didn't come off like harsh or anything like that, but just like, these are ways to make that experience easier.
I think one more thing, because I know Gary, because, you know, he's in my community, but also, you know, Gary is from the UK. So I would also say that racial experiences in Europe and
the UK are even way more different than here.
Incredibly different than in the United States. So, and just something I've seen around AuthorTube a little bit that I'm just going to throw out there. On the sensitivity reader thing, because I had this discussion with someone recently, there are very interesting misunderstandings, I think, about what it is, what someone's doing. They're not reading the piece to like come back and rip it apart or tell you need to rewrite it, or that isn't how it works. It's getting an editorial letter where someone tells you, hey, this is how this lands. Are you aware of this? Hey, this is offensive to this person and this person. But ultimately, the decision is yours. So this whole idea and pushback that I've seen on AuthorTube and lots of videos recently about pushing back against sensitivity readers have no more power than anyone else in the equation. It's just a good practice.
Right. You might not ever listen to them, but you should engage them at the very least.
I would say you then live with the consequences of that if that if karma always comes back to you on that. But I think that in the end, ultimately it is your decision. So I feel like there's a false, a sort of a zero sum in that discussion a lot of times, where it's like, well, sensitivity readers are bad because they might change my narrative or they might change my story. Get over yourself.
Right. Do you not have that fear with beta readers or alpha readers or critique partners? Because it's the same thing, except for the sensitivity reader is specifically reading for these cultural things. And that's different. And honestly, I'm going to say this as well. One sensitivity reader is not enough, because no group of people is a monolith. No. So yeah, one person might read it and be like, I don't see anything wrong with this. As you know from watching last night, quite a few people love White Smoke. I happen to not be one of them. So. And
that's okay, right?
And the truth of the matter is, no matter who you are, somebody's not going to like the story.
Exactly. And that's
like,
okay.
That's always going to be a thing. So that is something that, like, there's that.
Yeah. Books by Adrian, I think he's heading out, but he said, I sent some of my Faye chapters to BC Brown for LGBTQ sensitivity reading. Again, to what you said, always good to have multiple people do it. Right. And I need to send my Migdalia chapters to some Black sensitivity readers. And yes, totally. I would suggest that it is always good when you're asking sensitivity readers to read stuff for you. If they won't take payment, there's always a great way to like do something for them somehow.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel like sensitivity readers above everything else, because in every other situation, you are sharing like
here we go. Marsha picked up what I was saying. There it is.
Right,
there it is.
Exactly what I was going to say.
Awkward about it, but like, yes, in self-publishing, damn it, pay your sensitivity readers.
Right. It's not the same as a beta reader or a critique partner. As in a critique partner, you're both getting help and getting feedback. That's the trade-off. And a beta reader, they're getting the book. You're getting this. An ARC reader, same thing. With sensitivity readers, that you are asking someone to educate you on how to tell this story. And so in that, you have to respect that labor.
Yeah.
And at the very least, there needs to be some conversation about that. If there isn't, I personally would be wary of whatever feedback they gave me. If I were you, if I'm being honest, that's me being for real.
Agreed. And just, you know, if I think it's easy. Thank you, Ben. Yes, better sensitivity read picks something up within a reviewer.
Right, because then you gotta apologize.
Yeah, and why not? But yes, to the paying point, pay them, because again, it goes to that thing of like marginalized people. It's not their job to like do stuff for free for you,
right.
Like, you know, because in Trad Pub they're paid. So period.
Right, they are paid.
So. And again, and whatever, we're going to do this and get off this topic, but the stuff that comes back from TradPub is ultimately the editor and the writer's decision, just the same as it would be in self-publishing. So it's totally up to you. I just say again, consequences are a thing. So
right.
That, and the consequences are different than cancel culture. That's a whole other discussion they can't have today. But
for sure, totally different things.
You do something, you get in trouble. That's just how it works. Okie doke. So speaking of the research, because last night you guys had a lovely discussion about how folks, you know, just don't quite have a concept of what research is, and maybe it's a younger people thing who have the Googles. But what kind of research do you do when you're working on a project?
So I do a lot of digging, and I still have like access to my college's library stuff. So, you know, when I'm doing the story that I'm working on now, for the adult thriller, the main character is a lover of poetry, and she's a lover of Langston Hughes. Now, I am familiar with a decent amount of Langston Hughes poems, but not to the level of which I believe this character would be. So now I'm looking back and I'm like, okay, I need to start reading the novel that he wrote. I need to find biographies and or autobiographies and dig into those, because her being a lover of him, I know that she would know these things about him. And I know that I want these to be essential to the character, because for the sequel, it's important, this specific poem that he wrote. And so for me, it's a lot of digging. It's a lot of reading articles and peer-reviewed things and having to look and be like, I really don't like EBSCO, and I remember why I didn't like it. I remember, maybe J score is growing on me because EBSCO don't be treating me right. So that kind of thing. But I also like to do research of present day things. So because although my books are not about racism, our stories aren't about racism. Racism plays a part. My characters are Black. So like for certain things, I will look up what the current thought is on a topic. So like for the adult thriller, one of the premise comes from a conversation that we had. I want to say it even happened during the night that we had the spoken word night, and Eva was there, but it comes from the concept of there's no room on this earth for me and my child's killer. And with that concept, I started looking up like accounts of parents whose children have been killed, and how they react and what they do. I've started watching different videos of like how families react when verdicts come and what they're doing and those type of things, and not just reading the articles, but like watching the facial expressions and watching how they react and listening to the words that they say, solely because when I write what I write, I want it to be real and I want it to feel real and I want to draw from what I've seen. But also research spawns more ideas.
Right.
And so the more I like talk about something and like get deeper into it, the bigger it gets. Barrett knows we had one conversation and he said one thing and the whole story like morphed into something else, and I'm up here Googling databases and whatnot. So yeah. Research looks like a bunch of different things for me. It looks like interviewing people. It looks like, like interviewing and recording the conversation so that I can play back and hear, was there hesitation at this point when this was said? So when I'm writing the character, do I want them to stutter when they're about to say this? How does this reveal land? How would you feel if you have been a victim of this and this is what happened in the story? Would this person like this? They didn't. So how would I translate that for my character? Like those are the type of things that I try to do.
I love that. I think that's smart. That's good work. Sorry, let me fix my mic, people.
Well, my heater was blowing, so I don't know if that was it too.
Okay, let's see if that did it. I'm still a little bit. Sorry. I may just mute you while I talk, and I'll mute me while you talk.
I'll mute. Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to say, everybody. Drop your questions for Shay in the chat. We are going to do about 23 more minutes here. So hit us with your questions for Shay, and we are going to chit-chat about some other things while you all are doing that. So my next question for you is, who do you think is your favorite underappreciated novel and underappreciated author? They don't have to be the same or like connected.
Okay, so underappreciated novel. I was actually talking to Britt about this earlier. A novel I read this year that I really loved and I haven't heard a lot of conversation about is Long Vision, E.S.A. Layman. I loved that book. It's kind of like it's a time travel. It's like 2013, then it's 1985, then it's like 1960. It's a really good book. It is on Scribd, so if you have Scribd, the audiobook is there. So there you go. But yeah, no, I really, really, really love that book. And he has I want to say, I think it might be like an autobiography that came out, and so I want to read it. So he could be the underrated author as well, because I feel like it's his second book. But if I was thinking of an author that I think is underrated, I feel like, but I'm looking at like the shelf of the stuff that I bought, and I feel like everybody reads.
I mean, yeah, I feel like this is always a hard question for me, because I always feel like when someone's underrated for me may not be underrated for someone else, or they may be their person. So you know how that is. This is Heather.
So I mean, if I were gonna say underrated, then again, I'd go back to Frank Peretti, because most people I know have not read him. Like, unless you like grew up in like a super Christian home and you were only allowed to read fiction Christian books, most people I know haven't read him. So I would say I think he's super underrated.
Cool. I love this question from Nana. What is your favorite Grisham novel, and what about it did you like?
A Time to Kill.
Oh, now see, yeah.
I mean, the man knew what he was doing. All I'm saying, the man told a great story. It was good. Like, why? It was good. It was really, really good. The way that he encaptured how in the 1980s it was still like being in the 1950s for Black people was it for me, because as a child seeing the movie, you couldn't have told me that it wasn't set in the 1950s. And then reading the book and knowing that it's set in like 1980s and not even like, I want to say it's not even like 80. I feel like it's like mid 80 to late 80 that it's
I think late. I mean, I haven't read it in a long time, but I think it's the late 80s is when it's
right. Like I think it's like 88.
Yeah,
right. And like to read it and to know that was like the setting, and to realize how much we as a people in America don't realize how certain parts of the country are still decades behind other parts of the country. But also there will never not be a time where that closing argument does not just rip through my soul.
Totally.
Never be a time.
Totally. I think I think the most tragic thing about A Time to Kill is that it's every bit as relevant now as it was when you released it.
That part.
So that's sad, but important to note. Let's see, we did that one, but Nana had one more. It scrolled. Here it is. What is your favorite childhood book? I think I asked you.
Okay, so a book that wasn't like a chapter book would be Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters by John Steptoe, and I feel like I just put the like cover over here. Like, oh, there it is. The other day. Oh, why did you knock everything down? And I totally did knock everything down like a silly person. Hold on. Get that.
Writing for good.
So yeah, Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters by John.
I love that cover.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay. Let's check that out. You had that on the ready. Portia says, I think everything by Rivers Solomon is so underrated. Easily one of the best writers of our generation. I am not even familiar, so thank you, Portia.
I've only read one thing by Rivers Solomon, and I don't think it was bad. I think that the reason that I was given to read it wasn't what the story was. So it's definitely something I need to like go back and reread and like engage and like take my time with, because I do think it's a great, great story.
Question. What are you the most proud of?
This is like a super like generic and weird thing, but like I'm proud that before my grandma passed, I was able to take her on a vacation.
I love that.
Like, I'm glad that like growing up like super poor and not being able to do anything, and like being able to take her for a week to St. Thomas was like that was like one of my most proudest moments. Right, like that was like the best gift I could give her at the time. So
I love that. Thank you, Margaret, for dropping the link for the book in the chat. I appreciate you on that. And question, was there a teacher who recognized your talent for writing that you could shout out now?
So I don't know if it's a talent for writing, but like my first love is a teacher, and to this day, like Miss LaShawn Black, there's nothing in this world this woman could do that would make me feel negative about her. So y'all, I went to a private school when I was like in preschool, kindergarten time. It was an all Black private school. And I was in pre-K, and I like to walk around. And so I walked out of the classroom I was in and into Miss Black's classroom, and everybody has uniforms and everything like that. So she just was like, oh, there's a new kid. And I legit sat in her class all day. And like numerous times on the intercom, they were talking about a girl missing and walking around like looking for her in class. And it never clicked to her that I was that little girl. And so she let me sit in her class until the end of the day, and then figured out I was that girl. And they wanted to put me back into the pre-K class. She's like, like, no, she'll stay in my class. And like that woman, with the help of my grandma, obviously, like my love for learning and everything came from that. And it's funny because when I got ready to graduate from college, I used good old Google and Facebook and found her, and I got to like find her and give her an invitation to my college graduation, and like to tell her that like, yeah, the last time I saw you, I was 5 years old, but I've never forgotten about you and everything that you like poured into me in that time frame. So if there was the teacher, that it would be Miss LaShawn Black. It would be her.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that gives me a little warm and fuzzies in my heart.
Right? She was awesome.
And there for you, college grad, like full circle.
Right?
Love all of that. If you could give one piece, this is a great question. What is your one piece of writing advice for a newbie writer? What would it be?
Get critique partners.
Right.
That would be the one piece of advice. I'm a decent writer. I'm a better writer because of my critique partners. They have definitely made my writing better. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I love Penelope's Curry, but even as I was reading it, I was like, ooh, I changed that now. Ooh, I changed that now. Ooh, there's a better way I could have said that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. But it was, it was a year ago. It was the first thing that I like publicly put out there. I've changed a lot. I've grown a lot. So yeah. So I would say if there's one piece of advice, I would say get critique partners. And there's a lovely writerly conversation about critique partners. You could go check out that video, because there are some things that you need to be aware of when getting one, because it's not a relationship to be taken lightly, like at all.
No, it's important. What do you think is the toughest for you? Like when you first started receiving critique, what was the toughest sting? What was the thing you got back that stung the most, or that was like, ooh, that hurts?
Honestly, it was when I sent to an alpha reader the Karma Always Comes Back that's in the anthology. And they were like, well, honestly, I was just like, I figured it out. And I was like, this is why is this the thing? Why is this the thing? And like it gutted me. I was like, for a good 2-3 days, your girl was in like a full-blown funk. My CPs were like, I mean, I get it, but also I didn't guess it. And so like, yeah, maybe because you like read this genre, you would guess it, but I didn't guess it. And even knowing it, because I knew the other draft, the version that you wrote, it was still so different. It was a completely different experience. And so one reason good CPs are a thing, because they brought me out of that funk. But also because I had this thing where there were a good portion of time where when I was sending stuff to people, I was never getting any negative feedback. And that also bothers me, because it's like, I know something can be changed. So to have gotten all the positive feedback I'd gotten and then have gotten that, it really kind of like stung, but it wasn't negative feedback. And that's the other part of the thing that I had to realize, is that not just because somebody doesn't like something or it isn't their cup of tea doesn't mean the story was bad. It just means that the story didn't hit for them.
Right.
So
moderators, thank you once again.
Y'all are awesome. Yes. I'm so sorry that this is happening.
No, this has been recent, and I'm not quite sure why. They seem to be very selective about which who I'm talking to when they decide to pop in. So, okay, sorry, that distracted me for a second. Let me get back. Okay, if you had to choose an animal, a mascot, an avatar, a kindred spirit, what would represent Shay? Okay, so that's a different question, because I thought you was going to ask me what my favorite animal was. And then when you said mascot, spirit animal, I was like, dang, I can't say this because these things is kind of sexually violent, so I don't want to do that. So say dolphin, because dolphins are my favorite animals, but dolphins be raping each other, and that's not good. So that's not my spirit animal, y'all. You didn't know that? Yeah. No. What do you mean?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Dang, did I yeah. It broke my heart. Like somebody was choosing to be a dick because I said that my favorite animal was a dolphin, and they decided to tell me like horrible things about dolphins to like change my mind, and I found that out, and I was like, what? So yeah.
Like Brit is ruining like what? Ducks?
Right. Yeah, they just be out here like, I'm gonna take what's mine. Right.
Oh,
They're beautiful.
okay.
I hate it. It made me
no
feel
idea. Learn some. Thank you, Read Writes Collage, so much. Thank you. Okay, had no idea. So learning so much today. And I love writers. This is exactly
right.
And they were like, oh look. So
yeah. So also this is all stuff like this is also how I learned where the 4 fish that actually are born with lungs reside in the world. Again, like writer stuff. You hear one thing and then you just gotta, yeah. So if there's an animal that I would think is my spirit animal. I don't know. That's a hard one. We're gonna come back to that one. Because I don't know, but I'm gonna think of it. I'm gonna be thinking.
Yeah.
I'll give you an answer before we're done.
All right, that's good. Oh, here, I'm gonna ask this question from Nana because this is always one I love. Do you have a book that you've reread? Like, do you have a book that's like a multiple read?
I mean, y'all, he's my favorite author, so whatever. Frank Peretti. I've read This Present Darkness and Piercing the Darkness. I reread them at least twice a year.
Okay, I love that. Nana's. Okay. She always asks this one. Do you have any questions for me?
Okay. How did you find my channel?
Because we hosted together on Zara's.
Okay.
I didn't found you until that morning, and then I went and got into your content. And actually, I started again going in and lurking in When Black Women Speak, and I just kind of stayed and listened, and then hopped in on your writing sprints. And then Michael C.B. Chin, those like riddles from hell that he comes up with that you guys go on and like torture yourselves with, also there.
yeah. That's probably why on the streams I'm with Michael, we've kind of done prompts because the riddles be like, these are not fun. Love Michael though. He is such an amazing, sweet person and super duper glad. Okay, so that's one. Okay, another one.
Oh, see, Grayson, I have a little Michael crush, I think.
What's your what's your spirit animal?
Easy. That's dog.
A dog. Okay.
I mean, you're a dog. Yeah, so dog.
I was thinking that too, but I was like, I don't know. I'm still thinking. Okay, and then a third one. What is a topic you would like to see us talk about for When Black Women Speak?
Oh man, I love that. Have you guys talked about have you guys done Publishing Paid Me? Because that was started by
not explicitly. We've talked about it in like conversational pieces, like, but specifically that. Okay,
that one's died down. I mean, my gosh, it's publishing. There will be another shit show in a week, and I can email you and say, "Oh, look, found something else that should be talked about." No, mostly the thing I'm fascinated by right now is I went through the Publishing Paid Me Excel spreadsheet, and I just, I don't know why I'm surprised, but I'm surprised, and yeah. So I think that's.
Oh yeah, no, that man. Last summer was crazy, and then Ella McKinney had to drop. She was like, just to remind you guys that Publishing Pay Me was about Black authors. It's talked about authors of color now, but I just want to remind y'all that this is why it was started.
Yeah,
because the truth is there's a difference between people of color and Black people.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Like that was the end of the sentence. There is, and like the thing that we don't acknowledge a lot of time is that people of color gets you to put it gets you to put a little distance between Black people, and it gets you to put a little closer to your proximity to whiteness increases. It sucks, but it's a thing.
So it's like it's more feels more acceptable. You think?
Right. Like it's like why are we talking about Black people? We could be talking about everybody. And it's like, but the truth is even with everybody, Black authors are still getting paid less than their other of color counterparts. So it's still not that.
For sure.
Oh, comfort food. Just comfort food, period. One.
Period.
Shrimp fried rice is like a go-to. I'll order anytime. But if I have to cook it, it's macaroni and cheese. I will eat macaroni and cheese for breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert. It does not matter. Macaroni and cheese will get ate at any time in my life.
I'm done with that. I like that. I love this question because it's kind of a writer thing. But how do you take your coffee?
Lots of cream and lots of sugar.
Okay. Because, it's bitter. Michael who? Michael C.B. Chin, Gary Thomas writer. Michael C.B. Chin is this just magically delicious man who does these incredibly frustrating riddles, and he says this thing that drives me insane. Unfortunately, it doesn't sound as crazy as it is until you're in the riddle stream and you want to like jump out of a window.
Yeah, no, you're like, this is a word that I no longer like.
But yeah, Michael C.B. Chin, Gary, check him out. He's a lot of fun. He's actually a really great guy. And I'm just teasing about, I mean, yes, he's a very handsome guy, but I just tease him about the flirting because I think it makes him uncomfortable. And I love that. So macaroni and cheese is life. Agreed. Last question. And then we are going to give you outro time to talk and close it out. Oh, here we go. Michael. Yes, this is a better. Michael is a wonderful poet who unfortunately loves to cause suffering. With
definitely a wonderful poet.
Grayson nailed it 100% with that. Michael C.B. Chin is the king of obscure riddles. Truth. So last question before I give it up to someone for you to do an outro, kind of let folks know where you'll be. What do you do to snack on when you write? What's your snack?
So I'm not gonna lie, I be eating full blown meals, but if I was snacking, it would be, what are those pickles called? Bread and butter pickles, the slices with my chopsticks, or popcorn with my chopsticks. Either one. Both of them with chopsticks, so my hands don't get all that. So there were a couple questions that I saw that you didn't see, but one that I really wanted to answer. The novel Nana said, what's your favorite quote? And so my favorite quote is, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that others won't feel insecure around you. That specific line has been my tagline for my like professional email for forever, because like I truly believe that there is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that others won't feel insecure around you. And that's my quote to live by.
I love that. That's really powerful. Were there any others you missed that you want me to see? I see people chatting.
If there is one book that I would love to be able to read for the first time again, it would be Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry by Mildred D. Taylor. Amazing book. Yeah. I'm trying to see if I can, because now I'm doing rapid fire myself. What is your hope for the writing community? Honestly, that all of our books are out there. That is my one hope for all of us, right? Like that's what we're working for. So I think that's all of them. I don't think I missed any.
Concur. Devin, thank you for dropping Michael's channel, for dropping Shay's channels and playlists, for dropping Britt's, and all the
awesome.
Devin is the MVP. To the mods out there, I cannot thank you enough. You saved the day tonight multiple times, and I am grateful for you. I mean, I'm going to start calling Grayson Wild Quick Draw McGraw because he was out there on it, ready to get somebody, and I'm here for that energy. So Aphrodite, good to see you. We're actually wrapping things up. I love you to bits. So here is what I'm going to do. Kashay, I'm going to give you full screen and let you do an outro.
Okay. All right. Also, Heather, I just saw your question. If it was required reading, it would also be Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. If I think anybody should have required reading, it should be that. But hey, everybody. Oh my gosh, y'all, this has been a lot of fun, and I am nowhere near as nervous as I was when we started. Thank you so much for having me today, Barrett. I appreciate you. Just thank y'all for watching. I kind of have an update. I don't know. Okay, so Kwanzaa-thon is a thing. You should get into it. Do it. Let me watch your videos. Make posts on Instagram. Write flash fiction or poetry, whatever. Let me know about it. Tag me. Crime Readers of Color. There's a forum if you want to be part of the book club. We'll be meeting once a month. Come get into it with us. We'll be reading all types of books. We got 3 by Black authors, 3 by Latinx authors, 3 by Asian authors, 3 by Native Indigenous authors. So like you're gonna get the whole thing. It's gonna be everything. We're gonna read all the peoples. Trying to think. Oh, and we are the group read for Kwanzaa-thon is Wings of Ebony. We are reading on Bridge Channel every Friday at 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, and we'll be having a live show at the end of it so we can talk about it in one night, because Ashes of Gold comes out next month.
So excited.
And the last thing I can think of, so the announcement will be coming out this weekend, but N.K. Jemisin wrote this first trilogy called the Inheritance Trilogy, and your girl might be a co-host for the read-along for the whole thing for starting in January. So if you're like, hey, I liked Broken Earth, I'd like to see some more from NK, then be like me and go read it. Now, I've already read it. This will be a reread, but your girl is super excited because the truth is, when you read both of them, I dare you to tell me that you can easily pick which one is your favorite. I dare you. I dare you. So there we go.
You've got a lot going on. There are links in the description box. There are links in the chats. Go check them out. If you have not subscribed to Kashay, what are you doing with your life? I need explanations for what's happening and why. Thank you to everyone who showed out for us today or turned out for us today. I appreciate you. The few little announcements I have. Tomorrow I'm on Lisa Daly's show. Thursday we have Critique Group Live. We have a big announcement coming there, so I look forward to seeing all of you there. And Friday I have Sako and Toomey and BC Brown on to talk about their book release. And then next week I have a big collab with Michelle Schusterman and an interview with Robert Story Detective. And Kashay and I maybe have something this weekend, but we'll see. Like,
we'll figure it out.
We're talking conversations. So anyway, yes, everyone out there, we love you. We appreciate you. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us today, and have a wonderful day, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye.